Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Todd Klindt's SharePoint Netcast number 190, recorded live on a beautiful Monday evening, February 24th, 2014. I am your host, the ever unflappable Todd Klindt, and this week's Netcast is brought to you all by the folks at my employer, Rackspace. You can find out all about our great SharePoint offerings at sharepoint.rackspace.com. And for those of you that are going to the SharePoint conference, you're going to be seeing some cool stuff at our booth. Those of you that are not at the SharePoint conference, you're going to want to start checking sharepoint.rackspace.com in about a week. Something fun and crazy is going to show up there. I can't tell you what. But it's going to be the next big thing, I promise you. So like Monday the 3rd-ish, you're going to for sure want to go out to sharepoint.rackspace.com and check out the cool things you got there. But in the meantime, you can go out there, find out about our products, sign up for stuff. You probably don't get enough email, so sign up for some stuff and see what's going on out there. So that's sharepoint.rackspace.com. And if you get in a little chat window because you're bored, lonely, can't sleep, tell them I said hi. Tell them Todd said hi. For the production notes, not a lot. Got the audio up pretty quick. I've kind of worked on my process a little bit. Since I started adding lower thirds and all that kind of stuff, the video takes a lot longer to process. I think I've whined and kvetched about that a bunch already on the show. But what I realized was the audio takes no time at all. So I've got the little template that's got my lead-in music played by the ever-popular Dervish Shadravan. So I dropped the video that I record in on top of that template, and at that point the audio's done because you can't hear the lower thirds on the audio. So I've started, as soon as I drop it in, save it out, and then exporting the audio out. So the audio gets out pretty quickly. That's also my most popular download, so that just makes sense that I get that out first. So that went out pretty quickly and got the video out kind of late, and I think I actually didn't upload the RSS until the video RSS until just a few minutes ago, but that's all out there. Everything went pretty well. And again, I wanted to remind the folks in the chat room, a lot of regulars there, so this is stuff you guys have already heard, but if you're getting the commercials in the chat room and you don't like commercials, everybody likes commercials. How else do you know what's for sale unless you watch commercials? But you can go to ustream.com and for $4 a month get this tremendous broadcast and all of the other broadcasts on Ustream commercial free. So don't be afraid to do that. And I want you to pay them. I want them to make lots of money and have a great service, and they're helping me out by having this out there. So by all means, don't worry at all about the fact that they're getting the $4 instead of me. So go out there and check that out. That's at Ustream. So now on to some topics. So the first thing I wanted to talk about, and I didn't even have my notes up here. Some folks in the chat room are wanting me to do my best Bob Costas impression and try to get a case of the pink eye. If you'd have told me just a little bit ahead of time, I'd have worked something out. But it's too late now. I'm already on the air. So I recently blogged my SharePoint 2014 conference schedule. That's kind of getting out of hand with all the stuff going on, so I wanted to get that out there as quickly as I could, and I already need to update it. But if you're going to be at the SharePoint conference, check that out on my blog and kind of see it's got what sessions I'm going to be at, links to them inside of my SPC, so you can add them to your schedule and all that kind of stuff, and then just kind of where I'm going to be and when I'm going to be there. So if you hear this, if you're watching this or downloading this or anything, and you're at the SharePoint conference, if you don't come up and say hi, I will be personally offended and will probably spend the bulk of my flight home just sobbing. And the worst part about my flight home is that for part of it I've got a middle seat, so some stranger is just going to have me sobbing on his shoulder about the fact that you didn't come up and say hi. So by all means, come up and say hi at the SharePoint conference. So just kind of a quick rundown of the things that I'm going to do. I've got a pre-conference session on Sunday that costs extra, worth every penny, but that costs extra, and that's going to be install and config and all that. And then Sunday night, during the attendee party thing at the expo hall from 7:15 to 7:30, I'll be at the Nintex booth talking about Nintex workflow and kind of how that works with Rackspace. Just kind of a little demo. I'm actually stealing a demo that Tom Resing did 6-8 months ago on his blog. It was super cool, and when the guys at Nintex asked me to come by and talk about Nintex workflows, I'm like, hey, I got this great idea. So I've already warned Tom. He knows I stole his stuff, but that'll be kind of fun about how to use Nintex workflows with cloud servers at Rackspace. So that's on Sunday. Monday, I'm taking a breather, going to listen to President Clinton speak during the keynote, and then go hide out in my room and work on my sessions. That's normally how I work at these kind of things. Tuesday, I have a session at 10:45. That is our load testing SharePoint 2013 with Visual Studio 2013. That is from 10:45 to noon. And so that's going to be good. That's it's IT Pro focused. I know you developers yearn for me to be in your club. I understand. I know. I see it. I see the tweets and all that kind of stuff. But this is for IT pros. And what we're going to be talking about is using that dirty, disgusting, filthy developer tool, Visual Studio, but we're going to use it for good instead of evil this time. We're going to take Visual Studio and we're going to show you how you can use it to pound on your SharePoint servers and figure out, what kind of load they can handle and things like that. If nothing else, it should be just hysterical to watch me flounder around in Visual Studio. I think it'll be entertaining for no other reason than that. But that's Tuesday, 10:45 to noon, and that's SPC 381. Wednesday at 1:45, we've got our PowerShell session, and that's PowerShell for both on-prem and in the cloud SharePoint. And then at 5, we've got our upgrade session, and that's going to be upgrade, as you can imagine. So those are kind of the things. I'm also going to be at the Rackspace booth a bunch, so you can go by there and see the cool things that we're going to be doing there. And a couple other things. I've talked about the fact that I want to do a live broadcast of this from SPC. The SPC folks have not gotten back to me. I've been talking to them as politely and insistently as I can since like October, and they just haven't gotten back to me with the time and all that. So I don't know if that means they're blowing me off or if that means they just haven't got everything figured out. But hopefully I'll figure that out. When I do, I will update that blog post and let you know where that is and when that is. I don't know. I was kind of hoping to know before now so you guys could have some time to plan, but I don't know when that's going to be. I also talked about just kind of doing a little get-together, nothing formal, because the problem is everybody's just busy at these kind of conferences. There's just no time to do other stuff. So I was thinking about just having a casual little get-together and thinking about Wednesday morning. So Wednesday morning, just getting together for breakfast and seeing, just kind of hanging out with everybody. So if you're not sure where I'm going to be because you're going to be busy and all that kind of stuff, Wednesday morning we'll do something for breakfast. I need to get the time, but again, check that blog post of mine and I will put the breakfast things out then. I know that mornings are tough because evenings are full of fun stuff, but there's just no other time because Wednesday night is there's parties Wednesday night. Tuesday night's the attendee party. I mean, there's just always things going on. So I want to make sure that there's time for you guys to actually come by and say hey. So yes, the official Netcast hooligans and sufferers will be Wednesday morning breakfast. Again, I'll probably set up an Eventbrite thing so that you all can have it and put it in your schedule and all that kind of stuff. But we'll just I'll have somebody make sure we're standing out there, kind of keeping an eye on people. We'll just get a couple of tables and hang out and chat and that kind of stuff. Because my first session is not till 1:45 on Wednesday, so it'll work pretty well. So and like I've said before, you can hit me up on Twitter at Todd Klindt. You can email me todd.klindt@rackspace.com. By all means, if you're going to be at the SharePoint conference, let me know. I definitely want to say hey, shake your hand, chat with you a little bit. So reach out to me. The other thing that I wanted to mention is if you have not got a copy of Professional SharePoint 2013 Administration. First, shame on you. What are you waiting for? My goodness, this thing's been out forever. But if you don't have one, or if you've got one and just want another one, I will, if you buy it ahead of time, that's the important thing, buy it ahead of time, I will bring it with me to Vegas and sign it for you, because we're not having any book signings or anything this year for this book. But if you want a copy of this and you want it signed or not signed, however you want it, send me an email, todd.klindt@rackspace.com, and I'll give you the PayPal address, and we'll get it all set up, and I'll bring it with you, and I'll deliver it, hand deliver it to you. So that's an option. I've had a few people do that already. Got a few books left, so definitely do that, and I'll bring that out. So that'll be cool. I'm looking forward to doing that too. Yes, and to quote Chris Givens in the chat room, buy Todd's book. Can't put it any more succinctly to that. So that's good. So I do want to talk a little bit, kind of wrap up a story that I talked about last week. So if you guys remember 3 weeks ago on the 3rd, I told you about this awesome deal where if you bought a year of the Xbox Music, I forgot what the name, Xbox Music, we'll call it Xbox Music Pass, that's what it is. If you bought a year of that for $99 from the Microsoft Store, if you did that, you got a free Lumia 520. So not only did you get the Xbox Music Pass for a year, but you got the Lumia 520 as well. I talked about what a great deal that was, what a great little phone that was, and all that, and I was all very excited. And then if you remember last week, when we did this Netcast, I was very, very mad, very angry, because I had tried to take Microsoft up on that deal, had tried to give them $99 in exchange for a year of Xbox Music and Lumia 520, and they were fighting me, and I didn't have anything. So 2 weeks later, nothing had happened. So I know you're all at the edge of your seats wondering how the story turned out. You're probably getting ready to pen letters to your congressman about how poorly I've been treated and all that. I appreciate all of your help, but you can you can call off the hounds. It's all been resolved. I got my Xbox Music Pass last week, and today got me this little guy right here, this little Lumia 520. So this is what all the fuss was about, this little guy right here. So I just got him today, and I've been kind of busy with SharePoint conference stuff, but I haven't had a chance to set it up much. Did a little bit. But yeah, Tim in the chat room is saying that my money is no good at Microsoft. Yeah, but kind of in the bad way. But anyway, so this is a Lumia 520, and I don't have a SIM in it right now. My regular phone is this Lumia 920, and it's got my SIM in it. And if somebody who had my number called me, this is the one that would ring. For God's sakes, Eric Harlan, don't actually do that. I know you put your phone down. But this works just fine with no SIM in it, no phone stuff. So the interesting thing about this, since I've got this now, is there's a bunch of the Windows apps that work great offline. So like the mapping app works great offline. The music apps work great offline, things like that. The camera works great offline. So most, not all, but most of the great programs that you're used to seeing on the 920s and all that kind of stuff work on the 520. Now the 520 doesn't have a flash. You can see that's kind of bad, and it's a little smaller. So if you compare the screen sizes, it's a little smaller phone, but not a horrible phone. And I was talking to somebody today about it, and they said, well, I already get the Xbox Music Pass, so that's great because this just adds another year to it. So it's something they were going to buy anyway, but they're like, yeah, I don't know if I'm really going to use that phone. They had an older phone, and I said, well, that's great, but it's free. So if you don't like it, you can put games on it. It's got the Kids Zone stuff that comes with Windows 8, so you can put games on it, and your kids can use it without racking up bills and games, those in-game purchases, things like that. So it's a great little phone. If you're Windows 8 curious, this is a good way to get that fixed. So the Xbox, well, so I'll talk about that in a minute. So when you get the deal, you can get the 520, which works on AT&T, or you can get the 521 that works on T-Mobile. And those are the two carriers here in the U.S. that do SIMs, so you can just pop them in. And so I could, if I wanted, I've got a SIM on here. I could just pull it out, put in the 520, and it would work. So if you're curious about Windows Phone 8, this is a great way to find out about it. You can also just buy these things outright for like $60 at Walmart. You can just go buy one for $60. It's a pay-as-you-go AT&T phone, and then pay or not, because it works great with just Wi-Fi and without a phone thing, if that's what you end up doing. So I got that. That was pretty cool. But like last Tuesday or Wednesday, I finally got my Xbox Music Pass. Now, this was a weird one for me. I've got a couple of friends who use Xbox Music Pass, and they love it and rave about it all the time. I've never gotten too excited about streaming music. I'm one of these guys. I mean, I for the longest time bought CDs and then ripped them to MP3, and then just recently, in the last couple of years, started buying all my music from Amazon MP3 because they don't have DRM on them, and I download them on all that. So the streaming thing has never really appealed to me much. But I have some friends. Lori in the chat room, for instance, is always talking about how great it is. So I was never going to buy the 520 on its own because I've got the 920, and I was never going to buy the Xbox Music Pass because I just wasn't convinced that I would like it. But when they both came together, I'm like, we'll try it for $99. We will do that. I will tell you, I've been loving the Xbox Music Pass, and everybody consumes media differently. So what's great for me might not be great for somebody else. But I did want to tell you a little bit about that. So I've got. If we would look back a year ago, my main phone was an Android phone. It was a Galaxy S2 Skyrocket. My main tablet was, I had a 7-inch Nexus Android tablet, and I had a 10-inch Android tablet that I used, and my main workstation was running Windows 7. Windows 8 was already out, but I didn't use it. I had no interest in it. Then TechEd last year happened. They had the $99 Surface RTs and the $400 Surface Pros, and I finally kind of got a taste of Windows 8. And then Windows 8.1 came out, which made Windows 8 not suck, which was a nice touch. And so I kind of got mixed into it. So now here I am a year later. My main phone is a Windows phone. My main tablets are Windows tablets. My main machine is a Windows 8.1 machine. So the great thing about this Xbox Music Pass is they all talk together. And it's pretty cool. So one of the first things that I noticed about this was last year when I got that first Surface device, I had an SD card in my Android tablet that had a bunch of MP3s and movies and stuff. I stuck it in my Surface RT, and the first time I played a song off of that, Xbox Music said, "Hey, I noticed you had a bunch of MP3s here, and we've got the license to stream these to you. So we're just going to go ahead and mark that that you have these, and then anywhere in the cloud you can just play these songs." So that's pretty cool. So without having to take that card out, now I could listen to all of those songs on any Windows 8 device, which was pretty cool. But that didn't transfer over to my Windows phone. So the Xbox Music on Windows Phone doesn't sync your music without the Xbox Music Pass. So now that I've got the Xbox Music Pass, I can go on my Dell Venue 8 Pro here, this little guy, and I can go out to the streaming stuff because now I can stream music that I don't own, which is cool. So that's kind of nice. I can go out there with a bigger interface, or I can do it on my computer if I want to. It doesn't matter. But I can pick out playlists, things like that. So I can pick out some songs, and I was doing this last night. So I was had this thing, was picking out some songs, put them in a playlist on this device, on this little guy right here. Put them on here, listened to it a little bit, didn't think much about it. Then this morning when I got up and I went into the shower, took a shower, I've got a Bluetooth, waterproof Bluetooth speaker in my shower that I play music off my phone with. Fired up Xbox Music on my phone. The playlist that I had created on my tablet was on my phone. So I just hit it, and all the songs that I wanted to listen to were right there. So that was pretty nice. That's just one of the great ways that Xbox Music is great for streaming. So I've got it for the next year, and then after that I have to pay the $10 a month or whatever. But I will tell you that I thought it was completely uninteresting to me, and now that I've got it, I've been a big fan. So that's so if you're curious about Xbox Music or you're curious about getting a Windows Phone, you can still go to the Microsoft Store, I think, and get that deal. Let me you guys sit right there, and I'll I'll get the link for you. So now that I've talked about being in the shower and all that, the chat room is all titillated and running wild. Well, I don't know if you guys watch the show Arrested Development, but the one character, Tobias, is a never nude. Well, that's my secret shame. I'm also a never nude, so I shower with blue jeans on. You were going to find out eventually. But no, it works pretty nice. So I just went out and got, Amazon's got a bunch of different kinds, but I've got a it's just a Bluetooth shower speaker, and it works pretty well. It works with everything. Joanne is asking if that is U.S. only. You know, Joanne, I don't know. I've not gone to Canada and tried to order it, so I don't know. So I guess the other thing I wanted to mention is last week I was telling you the sordid tale of woe on how Microsoft had horribly screwed up my order and how very mad I was and how I spit nails in their general direction. This weekend, I think it was like on Saturday maybe, one of the guys from the Microsoft store called me at home and told me that everything had been fixed and kind of explained what had happened. So I don't want to get into a bunch of the details because I'm not entirely sure he was supposed to tell me what went wrong, but there was absolutely a problem on Microsoft's end. They had actually fixed the problem shortly after it happened, but I ordered it twice. So I ordered the phone and all that stuff on Tuesday and didn't get a confirmation email or anything. So I thought I screwed something up. So Wednesday I ordered it again. And so everybody who only ordered one, their stuff went right through and they've had no problem since then. But since I ordered two, it triggered something in their system. So that was why I had to wait the extra time. So if you order it today, I'm sure it'll be fine. You'll get it as quickly as you should. But it's a good little thing. It's been nice to play with. I'm glad I got it. I've enjoyed it. And if there's interest, I can find a link for my the shower speaker that I have put in the chat room. It's a crazy thing, but I really like it, and it works well because it works in the shower. But then I also take it when I travel because it gives me a better set of speakers, like on my desk or whatever, if I want. Chris from New Zealand is asking if my shower speakers have a webcam built in. Chris, I don't know if anybody's told you about it, but there's a secret pay part of my website. You have to have your credit card and all that kind of stuff. The answers to all your questions are there. I've said enough. I've said too much already. But we'll move back. We'll move into that. So the next thing I wanted to talk about along the same lines is Nokia has announced coming up here. I think it comes out in April. I forget now. This new thing called Nokia treasure tags. And we've seen similar things. This is not revolutionary necessarily, but these treasure tags are little Bluetooth keychain things, essentially. And you can put them on your keys or whatever, and you set them up, and you can set up rules based on these things. So one of the rules that you can set up is, if I leave my house and this tag isn't with me, my phone should let me know, because it joins up to your phone, and your phone can tell where it's at, and if you lose it and those kind of things. So it's a pretty cool idea. You know, the idea is that you'll never lose your keys again, things like that. So they come out, I believe, in August. They're going to be $29 a piece, and then you can just clip them on whatever, your purse, your mink stole, whatever you've got. But I don't know if it's worth $30 to me, but I'll probably get one just to see what it's like. But I can't remember from the article when they come out. I thought it said in there. But pretty cool. There's going to be a lot of that stuff going on, and I think we've recently seen the Bluetooth 4, the low energy stuff. These are some of the great things that we're going to be able to do with this low energy Bluetooth thing. So very anxious to get a hold of one of these when they come out. And anybody else who's got a Nokia phone or a Windows 8 phone should be able to take advantage of these. They come in many designer colors. There's a beautiful light blue, very fetching canary yellow. TechRev Merrill is asking how long the battery's going to last. So they say in the article that it's 6 months. I assume they're lying through their teeth. But the cool thing with these particular ones is they have a replaceable watch battery. So it's just one of your regular watch batteries. You can get them at Walmart or whatever. So it's like the same kind of battery some of my kids' toys use, things like that. So yeah, the battery life is a big deal. The other thing is what impact is it going to have on your phone's battery life? I don't know. But pretty cool stuff. And I think, this is kind of a cool thing, but then it's going to open up the door to more cool things. It's these kind of gadgets and stuff. I love this kind of crap. Worthless crap, but it'll be fun. I'll love it. I'll have them. You can see me in a couple months. I'll have one. Another thing that came out in the last week, so right now, well, not right now because it's like 4 in the morning there, but this week in Barcelona is the World Phone Congress or whatever. And so in the week preceding up to the World Phone Congress and then the week of the World Phone Congress, there's just a ton of phone announcements. So software is getting updated and hardware is getting updated and all those kind of things. So you're going to see a bunch of that kind of stuff. And there's a bunch of stuff that I just didn't cover in this week Netcast because I didn't want it to be all about Windows Phone and that kind of stuff. But I did pick a couple of them. That treasure tags was one. Another one is there is an update for Glance in the Windows Store. So Glance is this super cool thing that runs on Windows Phone. And I've shown it before, but it bears repeating. And the idea behind Glance, let me get my screen up where I can see it, is when my phone is in my pocket, the screen is off. So you can see there's nothing going on. But with Glance on, if it sees motion, it turns the clock on. So the idea is that your phone's in your pocket. Nobody wears a watch anymore. So you reach into your pocket to get your phone, and your phone sees that motion, puts the time on there. So you just pull your clock out of your phone out of your pocket. It lights up. You can see the time. It's awesome. And that's been out for a while now. But they've updated Glance here in the last week, and Glance, and I just turned my screen on, so I broke Glance. Blah. But they have updated Glance, there we go, with a couple of new features. So one is you can pick some text. You can pick, like with your lock screen in Windows Phone, you can say, show me live stuff. So right here, I've got my email up here, so I can pull my phone out and just see what my last email was. Sadly, Doug Hemiger, goodness, boy, that guy needs a hobby or something. And then I can see at the bottom here, I've got 3 emails. You can put a background image, so I've got the mighty Trans Am logo there. And then you've also got options for setting like a nighttime mode so that, it stays dim from 10 to 7. You can pick different colored backgrounds, things like that. So a bunch of that stuff got updated with a Glance update this week. So if you're using Glance on your Nokia phone, go out and update that now. It's in the store. Put the link in the chat room. I think WP Central's got an article on it too, but it's good stuff. And nice try by the person who just texted me because the phone's not on the screen anymore. So missed it by that much. So one of the great things about this Nokia phone that I've gotten is I got this thing like 6 months ago, and it's just been a constant stream of updates. So it's been really great. I bought the phone. It's like a year old now, but there's just constantly new things coming out for it. So it's been a good thing. So I thought if you guys didn't mind, I would talk a little bit about SharePoint, since you guys are here and all that. Stumbled across a fun problem last week. And this is something that I was kind of tangentially aware of, but hadn't paid much attention to until something exploded last week. So one of the things, if without Googling or anything like that, or Bing or whatever your search engine of choice, without asking Jeeves, what characters are valid in the left part or the local part of an email address? Now, if you would have asked me this a week and a half ago, I'd have said, letters and numbers and maybe a couple of symbols like dashes and underscores, stuff like that. But turns out just about everything is. And what I found out this week is that according to RFC for email, plus signs are valid in the local part of an email address, which I knew that already, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But what I discovered this week is that while they are valid in the local part of an email address, SharePoint disagrees. So the way I knew about the plus sign thing was, 100 years ago when Gmail came out, one of the things that Gmail talked about was, so my Gmail address is Todd Klindt at Gmail. If I do Todd Klindt plus Amazon at gmail.com, this isn't like carving our name into a tree, but when Google gets that email, it ignores everything to the right of the plus sign. So it sees Todd Klindt plus, it ignores everything past that, and it just sends it to my email address, into my mailbox. But then when I see it, I can see it was sent to Todd, Klindt plus Amazon, so I can see where that email address came from. So that was pretty cool. But so I've known for a while that plus signs were there. So what happened was we have a multi-tenant environment, and people can sign up, and when they sign up, we take their email address, and that's what we create the thing. So somebody had used one of those email addresses with a plus sign in it, but when we tried to do the site collection creation, so new SP site, blah blah blah, owner email Todd plus rackspace@gmail.com, it exploded. It wouldn't work. SharePoint wouldn't take it. So it took a while to figure out what the problem was, because there was this whole big scripting process that goes on, and it all just broke, and so that's what it ended up being, was this plus sign. So probably never going to happen, because I think most people don't have plus signs in their email addresses. But if you do have an email address with a plus sign in the local part of the address, SharePoint does not like it. And that was SharePoint 2013. I haven't tested this across all the builds and all that kind of stuff, but I assume it's just one of those things they never wanted to think about. Another tangentially SharePoint related topic. We all heard, and in support of this, I wore a special shirt tonight. Let me make sure that I get this on camera. So we've all heard the bad news that SkyDrive was renamed to OneDrive, and last week there was a promotion for about 45 minutes Wednesday afternoon that if you went to OneDrive.com and while this, one of the first 10,000 people or something, you got 100 gig of storage for a year for free. So we're starting to see the OneDrive name trickle its way out. So that was kind of the first big one, was last Wednesday. Then today I saw this knowledge base article where you can now download the OneDrive client for business. So this used to be the SkyDrive Pro client, but now it's OneDrive. So I haven't looked at that much, but it looks like it's just a standard install. You just install it, and it's going to update your SkyDrive Pro. So now you're going to see that new thing. So it's really happening, folks. It's going to be here. So I got the 100 gig too, but it's only for a year. So I mean, it's better than nothing. It's free. I can't complain about that. But my complaint, I was talking to some other folks when that happened. My complaint is I don't use SkyDrive for much because I can't get files greater than 2 gig in there. So like I would sync my Netcast files and stuff like that, but it's not great for that. So, but I'll try it. I'll give it a shot. But anyway, if you're using SkyDrive Pro, either for SharePoint on-prem or for SharePoint Online, there's a new version of the client that I assume brands everything OneDrive for Business. I haven't actually installed it. I didn't see this thing until right before I went on the air. But this is breaking news that I'm getting out to you guys. I'm trying to see when this thing was even published. Oh man, this thing was published 5 days ago. Holy cow, I'm behind. But that's just an inevitable thing. It's coming around. On the heels of that, Microsoft has been busy with renaming things. So they renamed SkyDrive to OneDrive, some other stuff, and so now they got the new president. Satya Nadella is the president now of Microsoft. And then last week on the 19th, they also announced that they were renaming Office, the Office web apps in SharePoint Online to Office Online. So that was good. The Office web apps was always confusing because for a bunch of us, the acronym OWA forever has been the Outlook Web Access with Exchange. So that was a good thing, and I assume at some point that change is also going to trickle down to the on-prem stuff. Jack in the chat room heard a rumor that SharePoint was being renamed to Todd Point. Jack, I thought everybody who was part of that NDA understood that. That's not going to be announced till next week. I think you've spoiled it. So a couple people in the chat room are talking about what happens when you've got that 100 gig for a year. What happens when that goes away if you have more than you have space for. So what does not happen is Microsoft does not delete any of your data. What does happen is you can't add anything until you get below. So let's say you had 25 gig until last week. You got your 100 gig, so you're at 125 gig. A year from now, if you've got 27 gig worth of content, when that 100 gig expires, they're not just going to randomly delete 2 gig. You're going to keep your 27 gig, but you're not going to be able to add or change anything until you either delete something or buy more storage. That's come up a few times because they've got some other things. Like when I bought my Surface Pro 2, I got 200 gig of storage for 2 years or something like that. Yeah, so they just randomly go delete files. That's the thing. Oh, yeah, Mark in the chat room mentions, yeah, there's another thing. If you go to OneDrive and agree to have your phone camera reel sync, you get another 3 gig something. Jack, that was the other thing I was trying to remember. He said that InfoPath has been renamed to Retired. Yes, that's exactly what happens. So been a lot of changes, and I think, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. Obviously, the change in leadership at Microsoft. There's the SharePoint conference next week. There's Met coming up. Just a lot of things going on. And I think these are some signs of that. So when that gets updated for on-prem, I will let you know. I've also heard, and I haven't followed up much on this, that Office for iPad or something? Native Office for iPad is probably coming out soon. I don't have any iDevices, Apple devices, so I haven't been paying attention to that, but that seems like something that's going to be happening sooner rather than later. Got that. Oh, here's another good one. So we've just gotten used to Windows 8.1. We had Windows 8. It kind of had the stink of, suck on it. Windows 8.1 came out, generally regarded as a good thing. So we heard last week, or this week, I forget now, that Microsoft has officially acknowledged that there will be a spring update for Windows 8.1, creatively titled Update 1, that will be coming out sometime in April, about the time of build. And there's been some unsubstantiated things leaked out over the past month or so about, changes to the start screen and things like that. So that will be coming out. So far, the patches and stuff that have come out for Windows 8.1, the improvements to 8.1 have been good things. So I'm kind of excited about this. But the reason I bring it up to this crowd also is that they've also said that this same Update 1 will be rolling out for Windows Server 2012 R2. So if you're, managing your update servers or whatever, know that this patch is coming out. I assume it's going to, patch some of the same stuff. But it's all been good. I think Microsoft has gotten a lot of knocks over the last year over both Windows 8 and capitulating on some of the things that they said in 8, that they were doing in 8 that they took back in 8.1. I think they're doing a good job listening to demand, and they threw the whole Metro thing out there and it didn't quite stick, so they're like, all right, we'll backtrack on some of it. So I think that's a good thing. I think it's easy to knock them for it, but I think this is a good thing. They're listening to their customers. I like it. Yeah. We got a lot of chatter in the chat room about what we should call this thing. SP1, UP1. Yeah. It's like the whole Mario Brother thing when he hits a thing and it says up 1 when you get a free guy. This is an interesting one. So this has nothing to do with anything we've ever talked about. But Robert Scoble, co-worker of mine, published this on Facebook, and I really liked it. And it kind of hits on some of the things that I get. So the idea behind this blog post is how to get a busy person to respond to your email. So this affected me in 2 different ways, or it very much hit home. Number one is I work with people that get a lot of email, and I get frustrated because there's a lot of times I send them email and don't get a response. How dare they not respond to me? So, I've kind of given it a little bit of thought when I send an email, whatever, why, what can I do? But I hadn't really sat down and thought about what is important about that. So this guy wrote up this blog post on how to get a busy person to respond to your email. And it's 5 short tips, and they're really good tips. So these are tips that I'm going to use as I email people, people in my management, things like that, to increase the chances of getting a timely response. But also, it's one of the things, and I haven't decided the best way to put it out there, but I get a lot of emails from people, listeners of the podcast and stuff like that. And I read them all, but I don't respond to all of them, or don't respond to all of them as much as I would like to. And in reading through this blog post, I'm like, if some of those emails had this format, I would respond better. So I'm kind of on both sides. But I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the 5 points, because there's some good things that we can all do. One of them is keep it short. So, I'm not emailing my mom about the crazy stuff my kids are doing. This is an email to my boss about something. And so the guy writing the blog post gives this example of like this 4-paragraph thing, and this is huge and all this stuff. And then he's like, but what it really boiled down to was it could have been this. Hey, I saw you here. Can you do this? And the shorter the email is, the less likely the reader is going to look at this wall of text and say, man, I'll get back to that later. I don't have time right now, which of course means they'll never get back to it. They will never have time right now. So if you're emailing somebody who's busy and you want to increase your chances of getting a response, keep it short. Make it easy for them to look at and not get intimidated by the size of the words. So another one is format for readability and clarity. So this is one of the things that I've already done a little bit, but it has a wrong thing, which is kind of this big blob that's got 3 or 4 questions in it. And then they show the better way to do it is breaking it down into 2 or 3 paragraphs that are essentially a question or thought per paragraph. So it's easy to look at it and pick the questions out and kind of skim over it. Without, if it's just one big wall of text, it becomes tough to figure out the actions and things like that. Here's another great one. Make it clear what you want me to do. And this is an awesome one. And this just happened to me a couple of weeks ago on Twitter. Somebody said, hey, do you got any resources on extranets in SharePoint? So yeah, but I need more. What do you want from me? I need specific questions like, can you help me with security or things like that? So one of the great ways to increase your chances of getting a response is to make it very clear exactly what you want from them. Don't, do you have any suggestions about blah, or can you point me in blah, or can you help me please? Clear, concise things will make it easier for the person who's reading it to go, oh, yeah, I can do this, or I can send them links to that or whatever. So that was a good one. Be reasonable with your request is number 4. And so he gives a lot of examples about that. Hey, can you help me with this big long thing? Or, hey, can we get on Skype and chat for an hour? Hey, do you want to go out for lunch so I can pick your brain? He talks about how a lot of those are very, somewhat demanding. So he gives a list. He's like, the more work I have to go to, the less likely you're going to get a response. So that's kind of what it is. But be reasonable with your requests. Ask concise questions. Yes, like Mike be in the chat room. Todd, will you build my farm for me? That is an unreasonable request. Yes, that's a great example. So that's another one. And the final one is show me why I should take the time to help you. And then he follows it up immediately with, honestly, this sounds harsh, but it's important. Just talking about, what the story is, but you have to be concise about it, but explain what's going on and give them the motivation. So that's been good. And I will add a 6th one, and it's not in here, but another one, and it kind of encompasses all of this, but the easier you make it for me to respond, the more likely you're going to be to get a quick response, I guess. And so one great example, and again, everybody does everything different, but if you want something from me that's going to require any amount of typing or thinking, send it to me in email. That's just, like most knowledge worker type folks, which is what I am. I live out of my email. I've got tasks in my email. I check my email all the time. And that's the best place to have that task show up. Number 1, because that's just where my tasks are. But number 2, it's also the easiest way for me to respond. So let's look at an example. So if I'm sitting at my desk and you send me an email and say, hey, you talked about a thing a couple of weeks ago, can you send me a link to the thing about the thing with the guy? I'm like, oh yeah. So I've got my email up. I'll flop over to OneNote and copy the link and send it out. So let's say maybe it's after hours, which after hours for me might not be after hours for you. We got a couple people from Australia, New Zealand in the chat room, so they're off by 14 hours or whatever. Let's say I get the email 10:30 at night. I'm getting ready for bed and I check my phone one last time and I got an email. It's got a question in it. Super easy for me to hit reply, poppity pop pop, and send you off a reply. So the easier you make it for me to respond, that's great. Now here's what doesn't work very well. There's a couple of you in the chat room that are guilty of this, but I'm not going to name any names. One of the things that I would do if I could is I would shut off Twitter DMs. I would just kill them, just make it so it didn't work. You couldn't DM me. Because anybody who can send a tweet can probably send email, and everything about email is easier than Twitter. So we'll give you the example before. If I'm sitting at my desk and somebody sends me a Twitter DM, chances are I got TweetDeck up and I can click there, and if my response is less than 140 characters, I am good to go. Off it goes. If my response is not less than 140 characters, then I'm all trying to use bad grammar and bad spelling and split stuff up. Trouble that I don't have to go to if I get an email. If I get an email, I can make my response as wordy as I want, and off it goes. Now let's look at that example from somebody from some hypothetical Australian person. It's 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. I'm getting ready to go to bed, and I could get a Twitter DM, and so I get an email that's got the text of the DM in it, but I can't. Now responding to that is way more work. So now I have to look at that email and then on my phone or my tablet or whatever, fire up a Twitter client and wait for that to load if I don't already have it loaded and all that, and then go into that thing and reply. It's like 3 more steps. If you just send me the email, I reply to the email. So that's one thing, but didn't mean not to get off on a rant here. I'll step down off my soapbox, but I thought this was a good primer on if you're sending somebody who gets a lot of email. Those are some tips to increase your chances of getting a response. Okay. I'm missing. Nope, I'm not. There we go. Now we will go. So in the chat room, everybody's been putting up phony credit cards and phony social security cards, and yep. So here's a little known fact that they're talking about here in the chat room. If you're looking at a credit card and know there's no way I'm going to pull one of mine out, I don't even have one near me. A couple of tricks about credit cards. Number one, the first 4 or 5 numbers are the bank number. So like all the MasterCards start with the same and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of interesting. The other interesting thing is the credit card numbers themselves all fit an algorithm, so you can very easily generate valid credit card numbers because, and I forget, I think it's if you it's like add all the even digits up and then all the odd digits times 2 or something, it'll come up to an even number. There's an algorithm to it. So if you see any quick and easy credit card validation things, they're not actually going out to a credit card publisher and saying, hey, is this a valid number? They're just adding all the digits up and seeing if it comes up to a 0 at the end. So a couple of fun things about that. And that's one of the things, when the Target breach happened and Neiman Marcus and all these other people who have debit cards got hit hardest because that money comes right out of their checking account. And a few people were saying, well, as long as you don't shop at Target or whatever, you're fine. But you're not, because if somebody gets your bank number, they can generate phony valid credit card numbers. And if they happen to generate the one that's your debit card, well, that's money out of your bank account. So interesting tricks with credit cards. Right, so we'll do shameless self-promotion. Boy, lots going on. So obviously next week I'm going to be doing the SharePoint conference. As for this show itself, I don't know when it's going to be. Keep out on Twitter, keep out on email and all that kind of stuff. Like I mentioned earlier, doing the pre-con, doing the 3 sessions, Nintex booth on Sunday night, Rackspace booth a bunch of the other time, so on and so forth. In April, SP TechCon is in San Francisco. That is April 22nd through the 25th, doing a pre-con there as well. So we'll, and of course, if you're at any of these conferences, by all means come up, shake my hand, say hey. The next month, May, is Microsoft Tech Ed in Houston. That's May 12th through the 15th. I'll be doing some stuff there. Not entirely sure what all that's going to be, but I'll be there. Then in July, the SharePoint, the Australian SharePoint Conference, July 15th through the 16th, going to be in Sydney at the Hilton for that. And then the next week, going to be at the New Zealand SharePoint Conference, the 22nd, 23rd of July in Auckland for that. So very excited about all those things. I know, so Merrill in the chat room, he's going to be at Tech Ed. We're all going to have to get together and hang out in Houston. It'll be fun. So thanks, everybody. In the chat room, I kind of, oh, man, my recording program is froze up. I think I might have lost tonight's recording. Thanks, everybody in the chat room. I appreciate all the good questions. I would chat more. My mic now sits in front of my keyboard, and I can't type, so I can't. But thanks, everybody. Again, if you're going to be at the SharePoint conference, I hope to see you next week. I will see you there. We'll have a good time. And probably not going to have this thing next Monday, but stay on Twitter. We'll go from there. So thanks, everybody. Have a good week, and I'll see a bunch of you at the SharePoint conference. Have a good night.